Hi everyone! It's Laura Arnhold from the Upper Merion Township Library, and this afternoon I'm going to get a chance to book talk with you a little bit for basically kids from 7 or 8 through middle school. So I have a whole bunch of options here to talk to you about, but first I'm going to share a little bit about book talking with you. Book talking is what librarians do when they want to share the books they love with kids and adults. So I'm going to give you some basic information about the book, title, author, illustrator, publishers, and then we'll do a quick look at the plot line of the book and any other pertinent information that you might want to know about. I'll try to keep an eye on the comment section, so if you have questions, please let me know. But I'm really new at this whole, trying to do video, audio, and everything together, so I'll do my very best. Plus, it's mirror image, so I keep moving things in the wrong direction, so it's kind of confusing. Most of the books that I'm going to be talking about in the next couple days are available on Overdrive, which is the library's platform for downloading ebooks and audiobooks from home through the library's website. So as long as you have a library card, you can jump on there and take a look at what we offer. We have kids' books, young adult books, and adult books, so you can take a look at what we have there. If you don't have a library card and you want one while we're all closed down and staying at home, get onto our website. You can find the library card application, download it, and then fill it out and save it, and you can send it back to us through email to uppermariontownship.library@gmail.com, and we'll get you a library card as soon as we can, and I'm checking that email almost constantly Monday through Friday, so I'll be able to get you something pretty quickly. We're going to start with chapter books today, and chapter books, a lot of people think that if a book has chapters, it's considered a chapter book. But in the library world and in the kid lit world, chapter books are specifically books geared towards kids that are reading independently. So they're finished reading those easy readers, but they're not quite ready for the larger, what we typically call a chapter book. So smaller font, very few pictures, if any. So a chapter book is really for ages 7 to 10, depending on where they are developmentally. Has lots of white space, usually. The text is a little bit larger. There's a lot of space in between the lines of the text. The vocabulary is still somewhat controlled, so you're not getting just any word. You're kind of getting a controlled vocabulary for, those beginner readers still. There's lots of illustrations, so you'll see an illustration on almost every to every other page, and they're usually about 80 or so pages, maybe 90. They don't usually go over 100 pages, so that's how you know that those are chapter books. Those are a lot of our series books, so if your kid is into Magic Treehouse, Rainbow Magic Fairies, things like that, those are chapter books. Middle grade books are geared towards ages 8 through 12, and those books, have a typical font size, few, if any, illustrations. Now you'll have Diary of a Wimpy Kid and things like that that are heavily illustrated, but most don't have many illustrations. Most of these books are also over 100 pages, but you'll get stuff through Harry Potter, which is like 700 pages. And the best way to figure out what you're looking at as far as a chapter book or a middle grade novel, if you're concerned about the content for your child, is to look to find the protagonist's age, the main character. The main character for chapter books is going to be, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade maybe, but your middle grade protagonist is usually 11 or 12. So they're kind of phasing out of that elementary school and heading into the middle school area for most places. So we're going to get started. I've got 5 books to share with you today. I'm going to go over a chapter book. I'll talk to you about a classic book that I grew up loving, a read-aloud book that I think would be great for the whole family to enjoy, middle grade fantasy, and a middle grade realistic fiction, and I'm just pulling them from my collection here at home, which you can see I have a ton of things to talk about, but I just pulled a couple of my favorites today. And this way, rather than having to deal with getting publishers' permissions and copyright and all that, we're just going to talk about some great books. So let's get started. All right. Our first one is The Princess in Black by Shannon and Dean Hale. They're a husband and wife team, and they're absolutely hysterical. They write some really, really great books. This is just one of their series. And it's illustrated by Pham. She's also a great illustrator, so if you're familiar with any of her artwork, you'll find it in picture books through chapter books. This is published by Candlewick Press, so just so you have an idea of where to find it. And we have these in the collection as well. So this is the first book in the series about a princess by day and a superhero by night named Princess Magnolia and her trusty unicorn/pony, Frimplepants, which you've got to figure, the names in here are absolutely hysterical. Frimplepants is the name of the pony. And in this first story, Princess Magnolia starts her adventures fighting off the blue monster who wants to eat the goats in the pasture. And he's come out of his cave, and he's ready to chomp on some goats. And she must be careful, though, because the Princess Magnolia can't let anyone find out that she's also the Princess in Black, especially the goat herder named Duff and the nosy Duchess Wigtower. Because everyone knows princesses don't wear black. The authors actually wrote this book after one of their kids had said, pink is a girl color, but blue is a boy color, and black is definitely not a girl color. And they were shocked to find that they couldn't find someone in books that was not your typical princess. And so they decided to create The Princess in Black for both boys and girls to read about a girl who kicks some butt and has a lot of fun doing it. Let's see what other my notes are. I'm reading off some notes only because I don't want to forget to tell you anything, because there's a lot of really great stuff I have about these books. This is a perfect story to read aloud for families, or you can use it for independent readers to read to themselves. Like I said, it's only about 89 pages, has tons of illustrations all throughout the book. So you get text on one side, illustrations, all sorts of things like that. So it's really easy to read. And again, it has that large font and lots of space. You can see that right there. And this is her first adventure, so if you like this one, there are 6 other adventures in her series that you can check out right now, which is really exciting. And Candlewick has created a website just for Princess in Black, so if you go to princessinblack.com, there's an interview with the authors, there's a teacher's guide, book discussion questions, some frequently asked questions from kids, and stuff like that. So it's definitely a cool thing to check out. So you'll definitely want to look at this one. This is a really neat book. Again, that's Princess in Black by Shannon and Dean Hale. All right, on to our next one. This is one of my favorites. This is a classic I chose for today. It is called The BFG by Roald Dahl. This version is illustrated by Quentin Blake, and it's published by Penguin Random House. I first remember this book from one of my teachers growing up reading it out loud to the class, and I absolutely fell in love with it then, and I still love it now. Did you know that this one is actually a movie also? So if you like the book, you can have, read the book aloud with the family, and then watch the movie as something to do at home as well. Maybe have some dinner in front of the television or something like that. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm super excited to do it. So that might be one of my stay-at-home plans in the next couple of days as well. I love the language in this book. Roald Dahl has created his own unique spin on English for this giant to speak, and if you have, you definitely want to pay close attention to how they use the words in it, because it's a lot of fun. The story of this book is that one night, as Sophie, an orphan living in an orphanage, lies awake, she sees the shadow of a giant man with a suitcase and a sort of trumpet walking down the street. And obviously she is frightened, so she hides under her covers, only to be scooped up by the giant and carried to his cave very quickly. He's a very fast giant. She's of course frightened, but comes to find out that the BFG is not just any giant, he's the big friendly giant. And his job is to gather up dreams, and he keeps them in his cave, and he travels throughout the world giving good dreams to children and destroying the bad ones. But he warns Sophie that if she leaves the cave, that she will be gobbled up by the other giants that live in the area. So Sophie and the BFG create a plan to share the story of the scary man-eating giants with the Queen of England in the hopes of capturing them all and making the world a safer place. If you want to find out what happens next, this is the BFG. This is going to be more of a middle grade book. You'll see that it's got a much smaller font. There's my mirror image issue. And there's got a couple pictures, but not a ton. So that is much more of a middle grade book, but one that you could read as a family, definitely. It's a lot of fun. So that's the BFG. All right, my next story is something that I would use as a family read aloud, and it is a large tome. It is super big. This is The Invention of Hugo Cabret, written and illustrated by Brian Selznick, published by Scholastic. This book is also a movie, just like the BFG. I'm going to figure out if I can find how many. We're at about 530 pages for this guy. See how big that is? It is huge. Now, I have shared this with tons of kids at the library, and every time I pull it out, their eyes get huge, just like the number of pages in this book. And they're like, I don't want a really big book. What's great about this book is that it's actually written both in text form and then also in illustrations. So it's a really interesting way to go about doing things. It also won the Caldecott Award in 2008, which was one of the first times something like this large won the Caldecott, which is usually reserved towards picture books. because it's an award for illustrations. I loved this book when it came out. I've read it probably half a dozen times. I've listened to it on audiobook, which is really interesting because so much of it's based in illustrations you don't think it would work, but they weave in sound and things with it, so it's really cool. And I really loved the movie too. So if you look at this book, you'll see that it's got text, but then there's sections that are just told in images too. So you have pictures of what's happening. And sometimes it's multiple frames of pictures, and other times it's just one photo in between the text. But it's absolutely fascinating. It's gorgeous. It's all pen drawing, so you can see that there. Very intricate. It's really cool. This is story sets out in 1931 Paris, and we open in the train station where a young boy named Hugo slips through the walls to attend to the clocks that keep the train station running. His uncle has disappeared, and he's now alone in the train station, trying to steer clear of the station master and keeping these clocks running while not drawing attention to himself. He's been working on an automaton since his father died, and he's trying to get this thing working because he thinks that if the automaton will work, it will spell out something his dad wanted him to know, maybe a message from his father. An automaton is a kind of old-fashioned robot that used gears and other mechanisms to move. During the story, Hugo meets a young girl named Isabel who helps him to uncover the secrets of the automaton and how it's part of her family's history as well. So it's a really fascinating story that looks into the history of that time period with a backdrop of silent and black and white movies, which is really cool as well. And you can do a lot of research from this book and go online and look up old movies from the 1930s, but you can also look some really cool information about the Franklin Institute, which is where Brian Selznick did a ton of research on automatons because they have one of the most intricately designed automatons in the world. If you do a search online, you can find out a lot of the information and actually see it in motion. The automaton at the Franklin Institute actually, I think, wrote 3 different poems by hand and would sign them as well. It's fascinating information to learn about, and they have some videos from the Institute that you can actually look and see. So it's kind of a cool story set halfway around the world, but at the same time with information from our own backyard. So it's really cool. Take a look at The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. All right, and like I said, if you have any questions about anything I'm talking about, please ask questions in the Facebook comment section, and I'll see if I can get to them. Alrighty, the next one on my list is a fantasy. This is a middle grade story. It's called The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, published by Algonquin Young Readers. And this was actually an award winner too. It won the Newbery Award in 2017. The Newbery Award is for books with a high merit of writing skill given to American authors for the previous year. So this published in 2016, won the Newbery in 2017. And it is just an absolutely gorgeous fairy tale story that feels very classic and yet very accessible to kids. This is as much a story of misunderstanding as it is a story of family and friendship. Every year, the village on the edge of this forest leaves a baby as a sacrifice for the witch who lives among the trees. And their hope is that by leaving the sacrifice, it'll be enough to protect them against her evil spells. What they don't realize is that the witch, named Zan, is very confused by the sacrifice they leave every year and has never asked for it, but at the same time wants to protect the babies who keep getting left at the edge of the forest. So she scoops them up every year, travels through, journeys through the forest, and gives them to a deserving family in a village on the other side of the forest, all the while feeding them starlight to keep them happy and full. She does this every year without question until one year she accidentally feeds this baby moonlight instead of starlight and decides that it's probably best off that she raises the child herself because she's magical now and she doesn't want her living among regular humans who might have some questions about where her magical abilities come from. But as Luna grows, the witch knows that she can't protect her from her magic, and she starts to get a little worried that it's going to become out of control. Meanwhile, there's a villager that has decided that rather than sacrifice another baby to this evil witch in the forest, he's going to go into the forest and he's going to try to find the witch and kill her himself. This story is filled with complex secondary characters like a poetic swamp monster a very tiny dragon, and villagers who are both wrong and right and filled with grief and fear and a whole lot of misunderstanding. It is a gorgeous fairy tale, definitely a little bit for the older age, so I would probably give this to kids ages 10 and up. It's a 370, 80 pages, so it's almost 400 pages, so it's a little bit more intense than some of the other books that we've looked at. It has just a little bit more complex themes to it for an older audience. All right, and my last one that I want to share with you is one of my favorites from last year, New Kid, by Jerry Craft. This was written and illustrated by him. It's published by HarperCollins and won, I don't know, at least a half a dozen awards last year. It won the Newbery Medal. It won the Coretta Scott King Author Award, a Kirkus Prize for Young Readers, and tons of accolades from the entire children's literature community. This is actually a graphic novel. Many people know what graphic novels are, but if you aren't familiar with what a graphic novel is and why it is really reading, it is a full-length story, usually 200, 300 pages, but also includes comic book style panels and art. And if it's done correctly, they are amazing ways to share stories with kids. They're very engaging, so if you have a reluctant reader who, the text is a little bit overwhelming to them, this is a great way for them to start. There's not as much text, but kids really have to learn about comprehension between text and illustration and how they combine, because you have to, you've got to learn how to read the panels. You need to know what order they go in. You need to be able to follow context clues. It has all of the great things that reading does, just with the support of having illustrations with it too. It's gorgeous. This is the story of Jordan Banks. He is entering 7th grade, and instead of going to the art school of his dreams, his parents are sending him to a prestigious private school that he's not super thrilled about. And as one of the few kids of color in his grade, his daily trip from his own neighborhood to the private school has him torn in two. He's not really sure who he is and where he belongs. What he would really like to be is a superhero, but realistically, he's a 7th grader. And he's trying to forge his way with new expectations, new teachers, new friends, new bullies, the whole thing. He deals with a ton of microaggressions from both students and staff, being one of the only kids of color in his grade, and I think that's a great way to open up conversations about racism in a variety of different formats for young kids. And throughout the story, he learns how to stand up for himself, but also how to stand up for his friends. It is a super powerful story. Jerry Craft did an amazing job with this, and it's one that you definitely have to read. That is New Kid by Jerry Craft. And those are the 5 I'm going to share with you today. I've got a couple more up my sleeve that I'm going to share with you the rest of this week. I'm going to be on, I'll be book talking Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Miss Becky's going to be jumping in on Tuesdays and Thursdays with some of her choices. We also have story time on Wednesday and Friday mornings at 10:30. And as I mentioned in story time this morning, we're going to be moving all of our content over to our YouTube channel, and we're going to mark most of it unlisted because of publishers and copyright laws. We're trying to follow everything as much as we can. So if you have any interest in seeing our videos, please email us at uppermeriontownship.library@gmail.com, and we can give you access to our entire list of links to all those videos. So we're going to be working on a Google Doc, and we'll be updating it every day as we add more content to that channel right now. Again, if you're interested in any of the books that I talked about today or some new options for your kids to read at home, check out Overdrive. It has a lot of really great choices right now, and it's easy to get on. So jump on Overdrive through our library's e-library resources, and you can do that. Anyone have any questions before I leave today? I don't see anyone in the comment box. If you do, please don't hesitate to just throw a comment. Let us know what you're looking for, or if you are looking for specific, suggestions. We may not have all of the titles to show you, but we can definitely talk about, if your kid is really into Warriors, the Cats That Talk books, and you're looking for other options, let us know. We can definitely book talk some other options for you as well. And yeah, shoot us a message if you're looking for anything in particular. We'll do our best to help you out. I hope you're having a great time at home, keeping safe, washing those hands. And as soon as we open back up to the public, we'd love to see everyone. See you later. Bye.